Check two. Check one. Check. Check. One. Ready? You guys ready? The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel at Church of the Nativity Annual Parish Meeting for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Good morning. This is fun. It is great to see everybody for our annual parish meeting. It is our 2024 parish meeting, but our report on 2023. So it is great to be here with all of y'all this morning. Want to remind you that we are live streaming, so whatever you say or do will be broadcast into the world. So just throwing that out there. But we do want to make sure all of our congregation, whether here or at home, can still participate in this important meeting. So at this point, I would like to call this meeting to order. And order is what I expect. I say that at every vestry meeting and nobody ever laughs, but I'm just going to keep, I heard Mike. Mike laughed a little bit, so thank you. So we're going to look at our ministry reports, but before we do that, I hope you all have been able to pull up our annual parish meeting packet. If you need one, we do have a couple more. Vicki has some in the back, but we're trying to be good stewards of our environment and not use thousands of sheets of paper. So if you need one, please raise your hand and Vicki will bring it to you. All of the ministry reports are in this packet. So we're not going to read through all of the ministry reports. I know you can do that on your own. I do want to call attention to a couple of things. One is how excited and grateful I am for our youth and children's ministries. We have two outstanding people that are running those programs. Maddie Bell Kolpak is our youth minister and young adults, and she is doing an outstanding job. And our youth group continues to grow. And also we have just hired, as you know, Emily Cantrell. She is our director of children and adult Christian formation. As you know, Mary Coe took another job at St. John's in Decatur, and Emily Cantrell stepped in, have not missed a beat, and our children's program continues to grow as well. So just wanted to highlight those things. One other thing I ask you to pay particular attention to is the report from parish and community engagement from Vicki Hinton. It is a lengthy report, which is wonderful because that means we are doing great things in this congregation and in our city. So please take a minute to look at all the things we're doing in our community and here. Also, just briefly, in terms of communication, Amy Brooks, our communications director here, this is a big year for us. Our new website is up and running. So please take a minute to go to nativity-hsv.org and check out our new website, which we are very excited about. We've been working hard on it for a long time, and it's finally here. Thank you, Amy. Also wanted you to know we have one provider now for all of our IT and AV work. Verta is the company that is doing all of our IT and also will be updating our audio-visual systems, hopefully be done by the end of February, right? So I know we've had some live streaming issues in the past, but those will be fixed completely very shortly. So bear with us, and thank you for your patience with all of that. Also, finally, I would call your attention to our building and grounds reports. We will have a lot of reporting on building and grounds issues, but I just want to continue to thank Emily Rogers for her work as our facilities manager. She does an outstanding job, and if you look through all the things that have been done this year, she has really been and taken very seriously her call to facilitate and keep up this wonderful church buildings. So anyway, please tell her thank you when you see her. All right. So that is all I have for ministry reports. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer for our treasurer's report. Alicia?
Thank you. We had a really good budget year and expenditures for 2023. We actually ended with a surplus of $150,000. Most of that is due to the fact that our Barrett Trust was $90,000 more than what we expected, but we've also had some increase in miscellaneous income, which would include things like our special services and new members coming in that did not pledge. I do want to put a quick word in for just pledging. We use that to develop the budget each year. It's kind of like if you took a new job but didn't know what you were going to make, but we're trying to figure out whether you could buy a car or not. So those things are very important. If we don't know or at least have an idea of what we have coming in, then it's kind of difficult to know where we can buy things or where expenditures should go. So looking at this, you can see if you have the year-end financial statements in front of you, you can see that for 2023 budget and 2023 actuals, our total income was above what we expected. Again, I mentioned that's the miscellaneous income with a couple of things there. Dyson and missions, just want to let you know that a portion, actually 11% of our pledge and plates automatically goes there. Also, what we budget in pledge and plates, 10% of that goes to outreach. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. That's a little bit above what we budgeted, but we expect that when we have more income coming in, then we have more going to that. Looking down through here, physical plant, you heard Father Michael talk about the fact that we're going to have a very good report on that. That was a little bit above what we budgeted, but we have old buildings with old units and things come up, and fortunately we've been able to cover those things. We also had a couple of issues with 33 Franklin Street that we were not expecting there, but again, looking at it, we have a net income. We have a surplus of about $150,000. Any questions on 2023 before we look at 2024? Okay. The last column is our budget for 2024. It's about a 5% increase over 2023, and that is due in for a couple of things. One is we did a cost of living increase for our clergy and staff. We have safety and security budget that increased a little bit. Looking also at youth formation, and it's always a great thing if our children's or youth program is asking for more money because they have more students or more people that are serving, so that's a great thing. And let's see, I think that hits most of it other than HVAC systems, which you're going to hear about from building and grounds. So just going through there, I mentioned that we're expecting an increase of 5%. Again, Dyson and missions, we have an increase in income. We expect a little bit of an increase there. Parish expenses up a little bit. Again, more things going on. The church is growing. That is a great thing. I mentioned youth Christian formation also increased there. Parish life. I did want to just briefly touch on music. There was an increase there. Actually, I've already had a question this morning. That is due to staff singers. It's also due to singers in our special programs. Upon checking, I discovered that those singers have not had a salary increase, cost of living, any increase in 9 years. So that's pretty justified on the increase when you look at those kinds of things. Again, there's an increase in building and grounds, but looking at it, our total income that we're expecting and total expenses is a little over 1.8 million, and again, that's a 5% increase. So any questions on the 2024 budget? Okay, then I think my work is done.
Thank you, Alicia. Jim, we had a question in the back. Jim, if you will, when we have questions, we do have a microphone just so everybody can hear us.
Just out of curiosity, how much is the income on Franklin?
The income projected for 2024 is $21,000.
Okay, was that the income last year?
The income last year was 25,000, a little over 25,000.
Thank you.
So just in case you don't know, we own a building on Franklin Street that we rent out at very reduced rate to Divine Counseling Services. Divine provides income-based fees, right? So people can receive counseling there according to how much they can pay, not the going rate, obviously. So it's very affordable counseling, and we support them by reducing their rate by a great deal. They actually there's 4 spaces over there. The Vine uses 3. We basically charge them for 1. So the other's an attorney. We charge him full price. I want to thank the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee puts a lot of work into this budget. They present it to the vestry, and generally the vestry says, this is great, thank you. And the vestry is the one that approves the 2024 budget. So this budget has already been approved by your vestry. All right. Chris?
Thank you, Alicia, for your leadership and heading up the Finance Committee for the vestry as our treasurer. Good morning. I'm Walton Bradford, the senior warden, and I want to take a minute to highlight a few of our next topics we will be discussing today with the building and grounds. We will have a few of our lay-led committee members catching you all up on what they have been thoughtfully navigating through this year. All of these topics have been on the minds of many of you for years, and I'm happy to tell you that this year, all of these committees have gotten some things done. Our first topic on the B&G list is around termites and how this year Nativity entered into arbitration with the Campbell Law Firm in a suit against Terminex for the breach of contract around the treating and warning of the termite bond. Our junior warden, Chris Singer, will be discussing this today.
Basically, what Walt has told you, hi, I'm Chris Singer, is kind of where we've gotten to at this point, given that we've moved into litigation. We have treated all of the facilities for any active termites, so we have a new good bond on all of our facilities. And we've made a few structural repairs in the office building that were needed and taking care of that. So I'm not sure what all we want to talk about termites. Other than we also contracted with a historic structural engineer, John Runkle, who is doing both an analysis of the damage and some inspections. He brings the experience of a Episcopal priest as well as a architectural historic engineer. and is working both with our accessibility committee as well as the building and grounds as we go forward. He's already done some preliminary inspections, and we're just in that process. It's going to take a little bit to find out where all damage may be occurring. So, termite story. It's an ongoing thing. And likely will be for a little bit. Hopefully we'll find out something toward the end of this year relative to the litigation. They are in a arbitration process. Relative to the rest of the building and grounds, there's a lot in this parish. I think we have like 18 air conditioning units, 3 of which needed to be replaced last year. At the same time as the roof on the office building, so Worth and Father Michael no longer need to use their trash cans for buckets. But that all happened basically concurrent, because the air conditioning units are actually on the roof, that the roof had to be replaced, and so that was a complicated activity that was put together. So we don't know what all the unknowns are going to happen this year with our historic facilities. But we do have some planned work that Emily has done a great job of laying out some priorities through with the Building and Grounds Committee, which, by the way, Sherry Vimmer, I want to give her a big thank you for her 2 years of service as the chair of that committee. And she's decided to step down, and Carter Wells has stepped in. So if you're interested in participating in Building and Grounds, just throw your hand up. We're glad to have any help we can get. There is an extensive report in the package that you're welcome to ask questions about or send notes. One thing I wanted to mention that Walt talked about was we are available for any, for questions or conversation outside of these meetings. Okay, Shelby Next has a great tool that allows us to have connect with each other, and so if you want to have a question, or you need a question, you want to talk outside of these things, just shoot us a text, something like that. Let's see, last thing, I wanted to thank not just Emily Rogers, but Marlon, who also is working in the facilities, as well as Lane Tuck. When you see Lane, give her a big hug, because she keeps these grounds and takes care of those boxwoods with such love. I'm just saying. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for your continued leadership. Our next topic is another one that this parish has been asking and seeking answers to for the past 40 years, and that is making nativity accessible to all. This project has been called a few different names and has changed scope a few times as well. At the end of the day, I feel that this year the committee is on the right track, making the plan, executing the plan, and helping in paving the way for nativity into the future. The head of the Accessibility Committee, previous senior warden, Jerry Nutt, will be bringing you all up to speed on where we are and where we are headed with the Accessibility and Elevator Project.
For those of you worried, I'm not going to sing the report. Although I would be less nervous. A lot less nervous. I didn't realize that it was everything was going to be printed in there. So I intended to read something that I won't read the entire thing. My entire report is in the packet. We have made a lot of progress. A couple things I wanted to note. We started out this thing 4 years ago with an estimated cost of about $1.3 million, thinking that we could do that without an intensive campaign. We can, in fact, raise $1.3 million because we've almost done that. The part that wasn't true, of course, was that the cost was $1.3 million, and it ballooned to well over $4 million, and we had a bunch of unknowns still. So. But I did want to tell people that we have raised over $1.1 million, and today we have over $900,000 in the account. Obviously, we spent some of that money on the progress that we've already made. But that money that you have given is still in a separate interest-generating account. In fact, it's generated about $45,000 in interest so far. Um, there had also been some discussion about coming up with a long-range master plan for Nativity's facilities. After some thought and discussion, we ended up focusing on the immediate issue of accessibility for the current facilities. We've been talking about an elevator for Nativity for over 40 years. I've been here 43 years, and I know for a fact it was talked about when we built Jofreon, and that was built in 1982. And it's unthinkable that the scope creep and budget constraints we could end up without an elevator at the end of this process. So last spring we did two things. We hired Matheny Goldman to come up with a new plan, and we also hired the Vandersall Collective to help us determine not only could we do a capital campaign, but what should the scope of the capital campaign be. Both of those projects have been fruitful so far. The capital campaign feasibility study was successful against a benchmark of response of 17% in the industry. You know, if 17% of the people respond, it's considered a viable survey. We had a 41% response. So I think that was very useful. And it told us, yes, we can support a campaign, but that our goal probably needs to be closer to $2 million. In fact, to quote from the summary of the report, congregants would be disappointed by not moving forward with a campaign, as the need for greater accessibility is clear and convincing, but questions around the process and communication must be addressed beforehand. So, and we take the second part of that, questions about the communication and process need to be communicated. We need to discuss and make sure we understand how the termite issue affects our plans for accessibility. We need to adjust our plans and expectations around that $2 million goal rather than a $4 million goal. We need to explain how John Runkle, who Chris mentioned, who's the architect and specializes in historic structures, is working with both the termite project and the accessibility project. John and Paul Matheny, our architect, met last fall to discuss the work that that Matheny Goldman is doing. And afterwards, John met with representatives from the Alabama Historic Commission to discuss the project and assure them that our work would be done in compliance with all the standards for historic properties so that we do not jeopardize either our standing on the National Historic Register or compromise the grant that we received from the National Park Service. We also need to do a much better job of rolling out the information of what the ideas that Paul Matheny came up with for our thing. So towards that, the feasibility study and eventually the plans from Paul Matheny will be available on a link that you'll see through the nativity scene. And then the other thing we're going to do, we have listening sessions, information sessions planned. The first two of those, everybody get your calendar out. Wednesday, February 7th at 11 o'clock, and then again that evening at 6 o'clock. And we really hope to be able to better explain what the thoughts are and also get input from you. We definitely need your input for the next steps to make sure we align the scale and scope of what we're trying to do. I'll say one other thing. The committee, and I believe the parish as a whole, is as committed as ever to going forward with an action plan that meets the objectives of accessibility, one that we can afford, one that honors and complements the historic tradition and commitments we all cherish, and most important to me, one that our children 50 years from now will still be proud of. So I would love to take questions. This is only a 40-minute meeting. But if you have questions, please come Wednesday, see me, see anybody on the accessibility committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry, for continuing to be a leader. Our last topic is one that has been an ongoing issue as well, especially for the past 5 years. This issue was noticed by a few concerned parishioners, not only as a current problem, but potentially as a future problem for Nativity moving forward. Nativity has always wanted their rectors and their families to feel grounded in the community here in downtown Huntsville, confident in their housing for stability, not just for our current rector and family, but also for any other future rectors and their families. This year, that handful of parishioners got together and helped form the Rectory Committee, which has been diligently working towards a solution to help with this issue. Today, from the Rectory Committee and previous senior warden, Bill Starnes will be bringing you all up to speed about this project.
Thank you, Walt. Good morning, everybody. I was wondering, I did have the honor and pleasure of being part of this committee, and I see other committee members here. I wasn't really sure why I was selected to speak for the committee, and I think it's my punishment for having done less work than anybody on the committee. But it really has been a pleasure working with everybody. And Walt framed it out pretty well. This is an issue that, and I think part of the reason I was asked to speak is I do bring some perspective on this question. And that perspective comes from time as a senior warden and from participating in the rectory or in the rector search committee that 5 years ago told this parish that Michael Goldsmith and Kana Goldsmith and family would be joining us. And it's really been an amazing 5 years when you think about it. You can see it, all the positive changes that we've seen. You can see it at our services, in our fellowship, in our outreach, in our ministry. You can see it in our stewardship. My only question, having been senior warden 8 years ago, my only question for the finance report was, what's a surplus? Because that is, it is wonderful, and it's great to see. And there's one issue that we have not seen positive direction on, and that has been the lack of an available rectory for this parish, for our clergy. That's a challenge. That was a question I heard a lot when we were working on the rector search committee. And it has been recognized as a challenge for a while now. 2 years ago, the vestry, within the vestry, picked the question up and dealt with it some. And I think the resolve was, we're going to do something about that. And in fairness, well, two points I'll make is to that. One, as you just heard from Chris and Jerry, they've been pretty busy. Some meaningful issues that have really demanded a lot of attention, and I commend them for all of their work on that, because those things don't go away. They have to be dealt with. And then the other challenge of this is it's a really complicated issue. It involves different moving parts. It involves a lot of questions. It involves conversations and questions and concerns for a lot of people, well, some people that we as a parish hold very dear, people we love. And we want to make sure to do right by those people as well. So a few months ago, a committee started up with the intent we have to get some traction on this. Gary Anglin and Heather Stroud provided some perspective from the vestry perspective and finance. Don Wheeler, Elizabeth Foster, and myself provided some parish concern as well, and really just the thought that we have to answer this question. We can't keep kicking it down the road. That led to a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations. The only thing you knew in a meeting was we were going to go long, but really good conversation, and those conversations led to questions, and we had a lot of conversations both within the parish and outside the parish, getting answers to those questions. All that information gathering As we needed, we added other voices to that room, other committee members who came in to help, and trying to find that answer. And over time, that answer started to take shape. We recognized as a committee that we had to have a rectory that was available for clergy. And as a parish, we wanted a rectory that was proximate to this parish. Having one out in Owens Crossroads doesn't do us a lot of good. And that's a challenge. And we heard that within the diocese, other parishes were dealing with the exact same challenge. And the trend has been moving towards parishes getting rectories with the recognition that housing proximate to your parish is hard to obtain on a preacher's salary. And so with those thoughts in mind, we then had conversations with both Finance Committee and Vestry, mostly Finance Committee at that point, to take in their concerns. Having put all that together, we made a formal proposal, which was presented to Finance Committee. They approved it and recommended it to the Vestry. The proposal, which was for a loan of up to $650,000 for the purchase of a rectory that would serve this parish not just for now, but moving forward as well for the decades ahead. It was approved unanimously by the Vestry, and last week the Diocesan Council, which has to approve such an acquisition, they approved it as well. So the good news is today we are ready to move forward. It's really it's wonderful news. It resolves a lot of issues and anxieties, again, for people that we hold very dear. The only two certainties I know at this point are it will be more house than Michael or Cana would ever ask for or maybe even want. But that's because it's to be the rectory for this parish. And then the other certainty is it will put us in a position to be able to move forward in the decades ahead comfortably, knowing that that issue is taken care of. I'm gonna, as with Jerry, I've probably spoken longer than Walt intended. I know there are going to be some questions. I know this is an issue that's been discussed before. I ask you to reach out to committee members. I'm sure Don or Elizabeth or myself, anybody on that committee, Heather and Gary as well, would be glad to answer any questions you have. If you call Heather or Elizabeth, your first words have to be thank you, and then you can move on to the rest. We would love to. We're all in Shelby Next. The only number I'll give you here for anybody who doesn't have Shelby Next is my cell number, but you're welcome to call. It's 256-656-1189. And I welcome talking to you about it. It really was, it's been a wonderful process, and it's been a blessing just to see the way that it has all come together. So, thank you.
10 more minutes.
10, I'll be quick. All right. Thank you, Bill, for your leadership and dedication. And now for my swan song. I'll keep it short and sweet. As a third-year vestry member and as your senior warden, oh, what a year it has been. Let me remind you all that I actually had hair before this. Just kidding. I want to take a moment and kind of relive a childhood moment here just for a second to help bring this concept to reality. So I want you to join me in putting your hands together. Here's the church. Here is the steeple. Open up the doors, and here are the people. It is all of you. It is the people that make the difference. Everyone in this room today shares something. They share in the love for this church. And that same love is what makes Nativity what it was built around in 1843, what it is today, and what it will be in the future. I would like to congratulate the fixing to be newly added members to the 2024 vestry, and I thank you all in advance for answering this call to serve. It has been a pleasure serving this 3-year vestry term together with the outgoing class. Adam Proud, Patrick Robbins, Alicia Taylor, and Heather Stroud, better known as the best vestry class ever. In closing, I would like to thank you all of the parishioners that are here at Nativity, the staff, the clergy, but most importantly, all of the members of the vestry for your thoughtful and prayerful approach to the tough and complex topics that we have tackled together this year. I could not have done this without all of your help. I leave you with one ask, and that is to use your God-given gifts. Get involved in a committee and get out and see the people. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Ask, and you will receive. Seek, and you shall find. And knock, and the door will be open unto you. Amen.
Whew, thank you all. Because of time constraints, and I think this is appropriate, we are going to recognize the outgoing vestry members in the midst of our worship service and give thanks for them at that time. So we're going to move that piece to our worship service today. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm sure, the rector's report. This will be added to our minutes and to the rest of the packet when it comes out on Tuesday. So, dear parish family, Kana and I continue to be grateful as we worship and work together in ministry, seeking and serving Christ together here at the Church of the Nativity. Kana's Bible study group has just read the book of Haggai, and Kana encouraged me to go back and read it, which I did. It's only 2 chapters, actually. Without going into too much detail, the Israelites had returned from exile to find that the Babylonians had plundered and destroyed the temple, the first temple. The prophet Haggai was told by God to get that temple rebuilt. That is the second temple. And after hearing our building and grounds report, you can see why I kind of feel like we are in between the first and second temple. Certainly, the wonderful and beautiful foundations of this church community are strong and resilient. Our history is to be treasured and celebrated. Our place in this community is unparalleled. But it kind of feels like those Neo-Babylonian termites have plundered the temple. Not to mention the now eradicated Norwegian rats and bricks falling from the sky. But as we learn in Haggai, there is a direct relationship between the health and well-being of the community and the presence of the temple. When the temple was diminished, so was the work it was able to do for the Israelites and for the community at large. We all rely on this church and her ministers to be there for us when needed. On Sunday mornings at the hospital, at weddings, funerals, baptisms, confirmations, and fellowship and community events of all kinds. And our church relies on you to be there for her. That is called lay ministry. The giving of your time, talent, and finances to enable the church to be the church for her members and for the larger congregation and community. Our church will need you this upcoming year, perhaps more than ever, and I am certain in new and life-giving ways. It is time to restore the temple and to make it accessible to all who enter these open doors. I believe a greater purpose is what we all seek, and God has gifted us this seeking place, the Episcopal Church of the Nativity. It is from here we seek, from here we serve, from here we gain the strength of purpose. And do not forget, we have a covenantal promise from God, a promise God told to Haggai. The future splendor of this house shall be greater than the past. It is a promise God has offered to us. And so we sing from hymn 517, "How lovely is thy dwelling place, O Lord of hosts, to me. My thirsty soul desires and longs within thy courts to be. My very heart and flesh cry out, O living God, for thee." God's peace. Thank you. Okay. We are going to move to the approval of diocesan convention delegates, those who have agreed and already been enrolled, and we've paid for all the things, so I hope you approve them. Our delegates for 2024 annual diocesan convention are Debbie Colette. If you're here, please stand up. Debbie Colette, Tommy Lotz, and Locke and Freya Neely, who probably are not here, but we all know what they look like. So I need a motion from somebody to approve these folks. Heather, do we have a second? Alicia, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Yay, all right. Thank y'all for representing your church in that capacity. All right, Wendy, you ready? Absolutely.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Wendy Wilson. I was the Vestry Nominating Committee chairperson this fall. And at first, I'd like to thank the other members that served with me, Virginia Caruso, Jerry Nutt, Walt Bradford, Jeff Johnson, Elizabeth Foster, and Margaret Day Baker. We got together, we created a questionnaire. It was actually the same one we had used previous years, just updated it for this year with how old you are you single, are you married, what do you like to do, how could you serve the church? And then we began making announcements in the steeple and the nativity scene with electronic link to this questionnaire. We also left paper copies in Ridley Hall and in the church office for anyone that was interested in investigating and seeking this call. The nominating committee met in mid-November, and we reviewed all the questionnaires, and we have selected the slate to bring forth to you to vote on for the candidates for next year's entry-level vestry class, and they will serve for 3 years. And if the candidates are here, I hope you'll stand when I call your name. David Hardy, Elizabeth Fleming, Aaron Elliott, Jay Epps, Minda Alexander, and Caroline Malden. The nominating committee is grateful for their thoughtful responses from you and your willingness to serve your time and talents with this parish and representing the broad spectrum of Nativity's membership. We believe that, hold on, I got to put my glasses on. We believe that the proposed slate of nominees will use their time and talents to work with the clergy and staff to do God's work in Huntsville. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, for your work with your committee. Just a point of order. So the vestry nomination committee works really hard to provide a slate of candidates. This is a slate. These people are not automatically vestry members, right? The congregation chooses the vestry. As according to the canons and constitution of the church, we now open the floor up to further nominations for vestry. Now, let me say one thing about that. This committee has worked really hard and talked to a lot of people and gone through surveys and really feel like these are the people who are being called to serve our church as vestry members for the next 3 years. You are welcome to nominate someone. However, if you do, you need to make sure you have talked to that person beforehand. That person has to be known to the treasurer, meaning they pledge, and that person has to be confirmed in the Episcopal Church. So at this time, I open the floor for further nominations. Great. Do I have a motion that the nominations be closed? Mike, do I have a second? Adam, thank you. Nominations are closed. At this time, we have a motion that I feel like somebody's getting ready to make to approve the slate as presented. Would somebody like to make that motion? Anyone? So moved. John, thank you. Do I have a second? Mary Carl, thank you. All in favor of approving this slate to be our 2024 vestry class, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Yay! All right. Good job. Okay, as I said, we are going to recognize our outgoing vestry members during the service today, but now it is time for my favorite part of our annual parish meeting. So while we've been in here, our children have been meeting in Bibb Chapel, and they have had their own annual parish meeting, and it's time for them to give their report about their meeting.
So we voted on some very important topics. I'm going to let them share.
Our goal at church this year is to be kind and enjoy life on earth.
Our favorite Sunday school activity is coloring and painting.
Our favorite part of Sunday mornings is biscuits.
This year, we hope our PBS theme is Under the Sea. Our favorite Bible story is Noah's Ark.
At church, we are thankful for communion. Our favorite part of VBS is games.
Our favorite Sunday school snack is popcorn.
Okay, hey kids, do y'all want to come stand down here and I'll take a big group picture of everybody in here? Yes, you too. Come stand in front of Father Michael.
Can you see the congregation? Do you need to stand? Y'all face that way.
Go in peace to love and serve the Lord in there.
Thanks be to God.
Okay.
Time for church.